You're welcome back to the Abia Morning Show. Unfortunately, we are having some technical issues. We're unable to connect with our guest who was willing to provide valuable insights on the Abia State 2025 budget estimate. But we'll just take a look at it, very quickly. The governor of Abia State has given or presented a budget of 750.3 billion naira to the House of Assembly for approval. This is now when the House of Assembly will ponder on if this is what they can approve for the state in the 2025 fiscal year. But when we look at the tide or the atmosphere in Abia, people are excited. Many people are excited that a shocking, striking 82% of this budget has been allocated to capital expenditure, which of course involves construction of roads, rural roads, and healthcare, education, as well as agriculture and agribusiness. 82% on capital expenditure. Usually, when the allocation in a budget exceeds, the capital expenditure in a budget exceeds that of the current expenditure, people always feel happy because they know that they're getting long-term infrastructure that will be of benefit to the state. So we have that recurrent expenditure set at 18%. But what makes people really apprehensive about this budget, despite the 82% for capital, is the fact that they're asking, how would such a budget be financed? And we're made to understand that the governor of Abia State is set to probably boost internally generated revenue. And at least everyone in Enugu State knows what that means. That means that probably more taxes would have to be collected. I mean, who knows? But that's the way IGR will be generated.
But the truth is that, we have to pay our taxes, right? And if the government is using it rightfully, nobody's going to complain. Nobody's going to complain. Like even some commentaries I was reading, because some people are having so many reactions, regards this budget, 750.3 billion naira. Someone was saying that regards the infrastructure and all the workings going in Abia State, it was even meant to be like 1 trillion, because they have so many things to align with, to work on at this point in time, electricity and whatnot. But the excitement is the lowest hanging fruit, which is agriculture. Agro-based is where somewhat, have a kind of a fraction that would impact that sector, right? Because is easily the only easy part now to make wealth, to create wealth for Abians, right? So it's a great deal that he is focusing on that agro base at this point in time too. So, but some people are like, oh, the budget is even low regards to what Abia State is encountering and all the project that is meant to be worked on. That is meant to at least be giving us like a budget of like 1 trillion regards to working on every sector of Abia State.
You see, to whom much is given, much is expected. If we had seen a budget like this for Abia State last year, following the previous administration, people would have said, why? It's too huge. But because they're seeing how the 2024 budget was implemented, some people even think that the budget of Abia State is not sufficient for, the projects that should be carried out. So it's quite impressive. But we also have the critical issue, or the downside of implementation of this budget. Now, we understand that the governor started off strong. He was implementing so many projects, became the governor to talk about in the Southeast. Everybody was saying Governor Alex Oti of Abia State. But people are also concerned about if next year, the 2025 year, will be as good as this year was. Would the budget be implemented by all the ministries that are supposed to execute that size of budget? Or was it just like they always say, initial gra-gra? That's not what we hope for.
But if you look at the trajectory, and attaining a new threshold right now in the Southeast, everybody wants to overdo themselves. The same thing is happening in Enugu State, the same thing in Abia State, and a couple of other states in the Southeast. So if they're going to derail, it's not going to be much, but work is going to be going on.
But then you can't take away the issue of trauma. Abia State has been one of the most seemingly ungoverned states prior to the assumption of office of the current governor of the state, So people have that fear. Governor Alex Oti did well this year. Would he still do the same next year? It's trauma.
I'm not going to say I believe him 100, but I believe him. I believe that he has started a good work and he's going to definitely continue. Because, what was there to hold, right? He came, he saw, and he's doing what he has to do, and he's seen how people are appreciating the works he's doing. Yeah, some people are going to counter your style of leadership. You can never please everybody. But I have that trust that definitely, regards to what's happening in other states in the Southeast, everybody wants to outdo themselves. So nobody wants to come out second. Everyone wants to be the best governor of coming out from the southeast or the eastern part of Nigeria at this point in time. So Governor Alex Oti definitely, I know that will continue the good work he's doing, right? Because he's been impactful. He has done a whole lot just in 1 year. So he should continue doing the great work he's doing for Abians and all that stuff, because apparently this is the way to go.
Okay, so now we're also looking at, we talked about the increase in IGR. Now, according to the budget, the state's IGR collection is going to increase by 213% to 100.5 billion naira, which is a 35% increase in VAT. This is different, a 35% increase in VAT to 55.1 billion naira, among others. So I understand that the people of Abia would be concerned about this spike, this hike in IGR, because internally generated revenue has to be gotten from within the state and businesses that operate within the state. So that is a concern. But do you think that it is worth it this time around, the increase of boost in IGR? How do you
expect for him to continue doing the good work he's doing without generating all this IGR?
But then that causes a lot of backlash as well.
Definitely
We're going to anticipate a lot of backlash.
Definitely though. So you have to widen the tax nets, right? Because everybody needs to get their hands on deck to get things properly working and implemented, right? How apart from borrowing, you can generate a lot of IGR to channel them into some infrastructures. But the thing is that people literally might not be skeptical, but at the same time, if they are seeing the result of the tax they are paying, they wouldn't bother. They wouldn't bother. They wouldn't worry. Right? Because the same thing that is happening right here. People are seeing the impact of their taxes they are paying right here in Enugu State. Yes, so many people will counter. But if you're seeing the impact, if you're seeing what the governments are using these monies to do, you'd be like, okay, fine and good. I know what I'm paying is yielding results. Right? So, yes, it's going to have some counter, whatnot, right, in Abia State. Yes. But if at the end of the day, the result surmounts, everybody's happy at the end of the day.
Happy, but then let's also look at the part of the deficit. Now, it's not all the money that would be used, that will be budgeted for this capital expenditure and recurrent expenditure that will be generated from the state. We also have the issue of government of Abia State having to borrow to finance that deficit. Now, we're looking at the government looking at this 364.1 billion naira, which is about 51% of the Abia State budget being financed through borrowing from domestic and also multilateral channels. So when it comes to borrowing and the government of Nigeria generally, whether state, whether federal, it makes people very apprehensive, because sometimes it leaves backlog for the successive administrator of that state. So how do you feel about this borrowing? Let's say the 51% of it being financed through borrowing. Do you think it's basically going to create more of a burden for Abia State in the long run, despite the short-term advantages of it?
I think I read somewhere where is clearing up some of the backlogs and all that stuff. But the thing is about borrowing is there's no government that does not borrow. At the end of the day, what happened to the monies being borrowed? Were they channeled into the right infrastructures and parastatals? That's just the question. Because if you channel the borrowed monies into the right infrastructures and all that, you generate revenues and pay back. Clear up some backlog. You might entirely not do that during your tenure or regime, right? But at least if you can reduce to some percentage, then it's welcomed, right? So the thing is about borrowing is not, while we're skeptical whenever government is trying to borrow money, are they going to use the money diligently, or is going to go into some personal people's pockets, enriching themselves and not, channeling these monies to the infrastructure they're being borrowed for?
All right. Well, we'll watch and see. Let's not jump the gun. Governor Alex Oti has presented the budget and waiting for approval from the hallowed chambers, the State House of Assembly. So let's not be too quick to assume that would actually be approved, because, in Nigeria, I think they're all usually approved, right? They're all usually approved. But let's just watch and see what plays out. But yes, mixed feelings in Abia State following the presentation of that budget due to justifiable concerns. But we can say that maybe people have started to trust the governor a little bit, just a little bit, because of the roads that were constructed. We saw all the new roads that were flagged off. We saw lots of infrastructural developments, backlogs, the pensions that were paid. and everything by the governor, and engaging with the people through those regular meetings,
Town
media
halls, yeah.
parleys, like Emmanuel would call them. So we'll keep on watching the governor of Abia State, keep on watching the House of Assembly too, and then wait for the verdict for that budget. And we hope that 2025 fiscal year will be more impressive than 2024. Take a quick break now. When we return, we'll be telling you, somebody will be telling you about the United Nigeria Airlines experience. Why fly United Nigeria back home to your loved ones this Yuletide? The program returns shortly. Do stay.